Today on the Winning with Shopify podcast.
This brand really came to life out of an actual middle of the night dream, who has a dream and then starts a business.
Rock bottom's a different level for everybody. It's very relative, but it's when you're almost like, I have nothing else now. Like I'm kind of done. I almost sort of look at it and say, well, actually you're a blank canvas now.
It all started to make sense to me, and I got a deeper understanding of who I was and where I came from. What works for Cheekbone is maybe not the systems that are aligned in the beauty industry norm. Maybe what works for us is this organic content.
I was watching Harry Potter and my wife paused it and said, what have you got so-and-so for Christmas? And I said, nothing. And they were like, well, what are we going to get them? And I looked at the screen and saw a dragon and I was like, obviously a Lego dragon. Like this is an easy one. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. If you've never tuned in before, my name's Nick and I've been hosting the show. It's nearly 2026. I can't believe where the time's gone. It still feels like 2010 in my head, but less said about that, the better. If you're tuning in for the first time, please hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment if there's commenting on the platform that you're on. If you want to watch this and check out my funky new studio, every week we're changing something in the studio. I should start to spot the difference. So if you spot something different, send me an email, hello@winningwithshopify.com. Be like, Nick, this has changed. And if I like what you've said enough, I will send you, I haven't got one to hand, I'll send you a limited edition because I only bought 10 Winning with Shopify mugs. We got a few in the office. I'll send you a mug if we like what you have to say or what you've spotted. So yeah, send in anything that's going on. Feel free to also ask us e-commerce questions. We are an e-commerce podcast. I run a marketing agency just outside that wall, and we spend millions of dollars and pounds every year on Google advertising and SEO and lots of other fun stuff as well. I'm super excited for this week's episode because we've had quite a few different people on the show recently, and unless things have gone in a different way, we've not had a founder on for a little while. So I'm delighted to have Jenn from Cheekbone Beauty on the show. So Jenn, without further ado, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to meet you.
Amazing. Well, it's so good to have you on the show, Jenn. And if people are listening, they're like, a beauty brand? Like, tell us a bit more about the business. What do you guys sell? How did you get started? What's your background before starting? And then we'll dig into some tangents afterwards. I know we're possibly rewinding the clock here, but
okay.
Tell us everything.
So I am technically 11 years in from ideation. This brand really came to life out of an actual middle of the night dream. When I say this to people, they always think it's a little bit humorous because who has a dream and then starts a business. So I am it's 2015. I sell seafood for a living. My entire career I'd been in the food space, but for the 8 years before getting into this business, I was a seafood sales rep. And then after that dream, I woke up and I wrote down what I wanted to do. And first it was to figure out how to make a lip gloss and then use a portion of the profits to do something to support my Indigenous community. At the time I had written, start a scholarship fund in honor of my grandmother. But to give you a little bit, and so the dream, when people ask about it, what was it? And all I remember is 3 native little girls. So 3 Indigenous little girls, brown skin, rosy cheeks, giggling and laughing. And then if I look at my life at the time and what was going on in the world, this was when Canada had finished this report called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. So it was this final report, and it was all of this work done over 6 years. And it was just being publicly announced that, oh, wow, the systems, which I am 38 at the time when this is happening, I had learned that both my grandparents went to one of those kinds of schools. And so unfortunately, when you're learning about that kind of history, it all started to make sense to me. And I got a deeper understanding of who I was and where I came from. And honestly, many First Nations or Indigenous families here in Canada, all of us had family members that had gone to these schools. They're called residential. And in the United States, they were called the boarding school system. But nobody would talk about it. And then as you learn and read these reports at that time, or you listen to stories of people that have survived those schools, unfortunately, they weren't a wonderful experience. And it created a lot of trauma. And, they still in many ways impact our communities and our families today. So I'm learning this. And then Nick, the truth about my story was I myself had struggled with alcoholism for many years. So I got sober November 26, 2014.
Congratulations.
Thank
nice.
you. And yeah, this past year I celebrated this past November, 11 years.
Wow.
But 2 months later is when I have this dream. So and when I describe it to people, and when I look back now, I think, wow, that is insane and crazy. And why did no one stop you? Because you knew nothing about the beauty industry. Like, again, I was selling fish to chefs and restaurateurs. What the
Very
heck
different to
do I
beauty. Yeah,
know
yeah.
about beauty? But I woke up from that, and I think that thing that happens to many entrepreneurs is like, I just had this insatiable belief that I could figure this out and do this. And when I look back now, I think in many cases, was it my sobriety? Was me overcoming alcoholism one giving me clarity? Was it making me crazy to think I could do this thing? Or did it give me this innate belief in myself once again that something better is possible? And the world shifting as it was at that time, like, I think historically that year and that commission and those reports really changed our country, Canada, because for many years no one ever admitted to sort of the wrongs that was committed in the name of colonization in this continent. And so I think just having that admission come, since then, and all of those things have just helped our people, Indigenous people, on this path to healing. And I think I was on my own personal healing journey. And I'm actually in the process of writing a book about it and in our brand story, and really talking about how this brand and business has helped me heal. So then have that dream. I'm now in the beauty space. I'm learning everything I possibly can. So, never been an entrepreneur, only have ever worked for people and organizations. And in 2 years, I read over 100 books on business and and being Indigenous. I was trying to learn more about that as well at the same time as, like, how do I build a business with that being our brand identity? Like, when I talk about Cheekbone, I have always shared that we really, when I say Indigenous roots, I wanted to go back to my ancestors of like thousands of years of living in what not even called Canada at the time, but this is how my family lived and survived and thrived before all of that happened. And the one thing that I know for certain is that Indigenous people have always been the keepers of land and cared about this planet and all of the gifts that it provides. And so, how could we as businesses do a better job in doing our part to take care of people and the planet? And so I went back and that, learning and research. And finally in 2016, we then launched our e-commerce store. So it was like a lot of learning up until that
Amazing.
point, but like, you name
Yeah.
it, it was going every path of like, I don't know how to write a business plan. I don't know what I didn't know anything. I knew a little bit more about marketing, and I knew from my career in sales and seafood that I really believed social media and every form of it was going to be the future.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, just in terms of your humility as well, just to share the depth of that story. And I mean, congratulations on some of the successes in it. I think there's one of the things it's brought me to, which I'm going to go completely away from Shopify and e-commerce for a sec. We'll come back in a minute, everyone. So track with us. I'm learning all these American phrases and Canadian phrases as well, like tracking with us. I didn't know what that meant till I watched the NFL, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I started using it before I knew what it meant. But I think like I read so many books as well. I've been reading a lot of audiobooks. I listen to podcasts. I mostly do listening because I'm very. I was joking with Jen that Jen was trying to get her tech working, and while she was trying to get her tech working to get in this, I've reorganized this desk and changed the lighting and other stuff. So if you haven't emailed me and you say any of that, then you don't win the competition I mentioned earlier. This episode of Winning with Shopify is brought to you by TaxCloud. It's the busiest time of year for e-commerce. Your store's buzzing, orders flying in, and growth is at an all-time high. But with all that momentum can come new sales tax exposure that you might not even see coming. That's why now is the perfect time to take a closer look at how you're handling sales tax and make sure your business is set up for the growth that you've earned. TaxCloud is our trusted partner for sales tax compliance, built for growing Shopify brands. They handle regulations, filings, and ongoing compliance, working directly with the states on your behalf across the US, so you can stay focused on running your store. They've got a 5-star rating in the Shopify App Store, and listeners of Winning with Shopify get free migration onboarding when you make the switch. To apply for that and learn more, you can go to taxcloud.com/winning. That's taxcloud.com/winning. But I think so many of the things I read, the stories of some of the most successful businesses, most successful people, and obviously success is a measure in itself. Everyone's got their own measure of that. But actually, the success comes from when people hit what I describe as rock bottom, and it's like actually rock bottom's a different level for everybody. It's very relative, but it's when you're almost like, I have nothing else now. Like I'm kind of done, and because I'm done, I almost sort of look at it and say, well, actually, you're a blank canvas now. you've kind of got rid of all the other stuff because you become so humble because you're like, I'm rubbish at everything. Everything I've done's failed. Everything I've known has been ripped up underneath me, or whatever situation you're in. And suddenly it's like you're actually a blank canvas. Like, go and dream. You know, and I mean, you actually had a physical dream, like at sleep one night. But go and dream. What do you want to do next? You know,
Mhm.
what is actually next for you? And I find bringing it back to e-commerce and how that I think relates actually to what's happening. And this, I think this is probably going to be the last episode we're posting this year. There'll be one special one next week, and I'm wearing an outfit, but it won't be an interview. It'll be one of the Tuesday ones. And guess what outfit I'll be wearing? It's going to be itchy. I keep telling everyone. But I think the interesting thing with Shopify brands is Shopify's made it so easy to go like, right, new account, name, email, bang. I've got an e-commerce store. No one's bought from me yet, but I've got an e-commerce store. And it's like the power suddenly that people have of going like, do you know what? I don't have to work for the. I know across the pond, a lot of people call it with the man. I don't have to work for the man anymore, and I can go and be my own boss and do my own thing. Of course, there are some people that get sold this dream and get sucked into it, and it doesn't work out, and money gets lost and everything else. But there are so many businesses that have come along, like yourself, where when I first just kind of heard the name Cheekbone Beauty, I was like, cool, we're talking to a beauty brand, let's find out. But hearing your story, my first question really, and I want to hear more about the roots in a second of like the early days and everything, but with everything you've just said, how do you bring that across? And I ask a lot of guests this, and I get a whole multitude of answers. How do you bring a lot of that across? Your backgrounds, your ancestors, the dream you had, what you're trying to achieve with the business, the giving back. How do you bring that across to your customer base? How do you bring that across in marketing? And I know it's not easy because there's only so many pixels on screens. And thanks to Apple and Android launching iPhones and everything else, we have less pixels on screen, so smaller screen. How do you bring that across to your customer base?
That is a great question. And I feel like we still don't know for sure. The only thing I know for certain is I just try to tell the story. Like I literally am like, whether it be the brand story, my personal story, or our product story, which we haven't even touched on products yet, right? Because you always assume
Yeah, we'll get there.
my career
Yeah.
prior was a salesperson, and you're technically trying to always give them that, the like, how is this going to make their life better, or those features, advantages, and benefits that we always used to pursue. And in the beginning I made the mistake of like trying to follow that path. Like with Cheekbone, I would be like, no, we got to tell them exactly what it's going to do and how it's going to solve their problem. And yet in a way we still have to do that. But I've learned over the years that I think people really love a story, and to get to that how it's going to help them, but they definitely want the story. And I feel very connected to storytelling. I've recognized that culturally it's something that, if you know what Native American, Native Canadian people have been notoriously popular for over generations, is we have told our stories, and always orally. That, like, you can, it is very hard now in 2025. Yeah, there's a lot more books written about, but all of our teachings, whether, no matter what tribe or nation we come from. In the United States they use more the word tribe. In Canada we use the word nation. So I am from the Ojibwe Nation, which is a group of people. They were technically sort of all around maybe the Great Lake area, but again, sometimes nomadic in many ways. But this is where we reside now. And the stories from my culture, which we call ourselves the Anishinaabe people, and I'm from, again, the Ojibwe Nation, something in the sense that, like, how do you define success? And our community and our people, we have stories about, that would be shared and passed down. We have one that we've included into the brand called the Seven Generations Teaching. And I'm sharing this one because I know it's more popular, and a lot of even non-Indigenous brands use this in their marketing. But the idea of what we do today and how it won't only impact the next generation, but the next seven. So we have to think more thoughtfully about the resources we take from the land, and what are we giving back to the land, and all of these things were stories and teachings that have passed down. So the one thing I always say, our brand story, it's big. There's a lot of pieces and facets of it. But if we just continue down this path of trying to tell and share those stories, I know that that's how we connect with a lot of our community. And that, when I say that, I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
our customers, right?
I love that, and yeah, and again, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's one thing I love. I studied at school quite a lot into Native Americans. I think it was more Central and South, like the Aztecs and
Yeah.
the Incas and things like that. And it's fascinating, and the amount of things that were going on that, like, someone 100 or 200 years ago was like, I've invented this. It's like, no, you didn't. we found sketchings now on a cave somewhere actually in South America that suggests otherwise. And I find it fascinating. And so it's almost like that ecosystem is like, I'd almost say it's almost like carbon offsetting. And how
Mm.
funny that like ancient tribes and nations were talking about exactly the same thing. I find it fascinating. And I guess the question I really want to ask then is, you mentioned products. What are your products? And I guess the products themselves, I know it's gonna be beauty related. Well, I assume it's gonna be beauty related unless it's not, because of the name you've mentioned. But the other question I really want to ask is, given everything you've mentioned about the history, what you're trying to do with the brand and the business and giving back, and your ancestry, and things like that, how did you choose the product range? Is really the question I want to know. So if you can tell us what it is, but how did you come up with that product range based on all those other factors?
Yeah, it was, I've said this many times, recently in particular. If I knew what I knew now back then, I probably would have started in skincare, not color. So we're in the category that people call color cosmetics. So anything for lips, eyes, and face, lipsticks, glosses, oils, balms. Face is complexion products, whether that's, we call ours a unified pencil, which really does foundation, concealing, and contouring all in one. We make everything with this whole concept of like it should be multi-purpose and multi-use, but that's a more part of the brand story, is that idea of being more sustainable. And then of course blush, eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, so all of the things in the color makeup category. Here's the facts, and what I know now is that color is such an expensive brand to start, in the sense that SKU line, you need multiple shades, especially if you're going to touch complexion, because you can imagine, I mean, there's 8 billion,
Yeah, yeah, of
more than
course.
8 billion. So shade range is always an issue. Color lips,
So
like
you need such a wide range.
there's
Like
so
doing an
many.
order for you is,
So,
we need to order so many, like
yeah.
maybe small volumes initially, but load a wide range of SKUs
And then
to cater just
when
for.
you're growing and
Yeah,
want to work with better partners, we're talking people that have much higher MOQs, and so it's
yeah, yeah.
very
Gosh.
expensive. And so what I know now, I would have definitely started in the skincare space, just because I could have launched 3 SKUs versus the 75 that we carry
3
now.
million.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
exactly. And so, but that's all about learning. And then I've also recognized, oh wow, okay, as I've gone on the journey, Nick, it's really interesting. I started the brand out very differently than where we are now. I didn't know anything about this space. Since founding it, we moved from buying from other manufacturers to actually us learning how to formulate our own formulations in our own lab that we built at our headquarters, and hired chemists and other scientists to work with to actually figure out. And what I wanted to learn, which is not the normal way either that people launch beauty usually, I I just really wanted to learn how everything was made, and I wanted to understand, why did we have to use this ingredient, and is there another option? And a lot of times if you're working with a contract manufacturer, they're going to tell you no, there isn't another option, and they're going to think they're going to try to explain to you why. However, I want to prove it to myself. I want to try to make that lipstick, and I want to use that more naturally derived ingredient. And if it doesn't work, I wanted to know why. But what we've learned is that we made our own formulations with more naturally derived ingredients that are more biodegradable, and that they can work, and they do work very well. And whatever the contract manufacturers were telling us were in fact them just wanting to regurgitate the same lipstick that every other makeup brand is putting into the market. But I was completely went against the path and said, no, we're going to figure out these things on our own. So with our lab, we've now made color, but next year we're moving into the skincare category, because we have learned how to make formulas and what can be better for us and the planet.
And are you, if you don't mind me just interrupting for a sec, are you the face of the brand as well then? Are you the main person that does the social channels and talks to customers? And
Sadly, yes.
um, you say sadly. I mean, but I think what you've done is exactly the right thing. So actually, it's not sadly. I think it's perfect that you're the right person to do it, because you understand the products enough. I mean, comparatively, I have it here with the agency where my team are like, Nick, why do you want to come to this client call? You know, they don't spend much, they're small. I'm like, I do all the pitching, I do the podcast, I do all the events that we do. I come up with what our branding is. I decide which case studies end up on the website. I decide how do we put a proposal and plan together for somebody. So if I don't know what's working, how on earth can I do all the other things? And it's exactly the same for you. And I think that there are some founders I talk to, they're like, yeah, I've got 7 or 8 e-commerce stores, and it's like, it's fine, but as long as you're not the face of any of them, unless you do have a proper vested interest, I think, to know what's going on. Because otherwise, how do you make marketing decisions? How
Yeah.
do you jump on TikTok and have a video conversation slightly one way, but telling customers about what's going on, you can't really do that if you don't really know the SKUs and the best products and things. Because people must buy into you. Customers must buy into like, oh, I saw Jenn was doing this. Do you ever find that in your warehouse you have dead stock? You can't sell it, no one wants to buy it, and you can't get a refund on it. Or alternatively, you're missing inventory in your warehouse that you need. You've got sales coming in and you're low on stock and you haven't ordered more stock in time. All these things hit profit. And I've been there. I've run my own Shopify store and had exactly that problem. But we've partnered it up with Inventory Planner, who have the most incredible app to help you manage that and forecast exactly what products, what SKUs, even down to what color of product you need to order in advance to make sure stock levels remain consistent throughout. They're also running a 7-day boot camp. And if you want to go and sign up to that, it's 7 emails over 7 days. And it takes the same amount of time as your morning coffee. And in 7 days, like me, you can become an inventory management pro. Both links are in the description. Enjoy. You must get customer service emails saying, I saw Jenn put something over here. Like, what is that product? How do I get it? When's it coming out?
Yeah, one of our favorite tools. And, having it is timing is everything. When I think back and when you just think about Shopify, like if that didn't exist, I wouldn't have never been able to do this. But then the tool we have at our checkout is we constantly ask people where they found out about the brand. So every week it could be from Jenn talking on social media to a news article to a TV segment that we were on or something like that. So we just want to know exactly where people are finding us. And so we embed that tool into the checkout, right?
That's cool. Do you I have this problem at the moment. So we've gone so data heavy in our agency. It's like if you can't prove it with data, it goes in the like 10% bucket of like, we're going to try this and just see what happens. The 90% has to be like, we've seen this in the data set, says we should do this, and that's going to grow revenue. And the reason I love that approach is it leads to the first question I thought when you said, we asked people how they found us. And I sort of thought, you probably know that on GA4 because you can see the sources and things. But I think what's interesting, and I haven't done this for a brand. I think I might need to do this in a year now. Now that you've mentioned it, now you mentioned it, I thought of it. It'd be amazing to overlay what the customer said versus GA4. Because if they say, "Oh, I saw Jenn on TikTok, for example,
yeah,
or on an Instagram video," and then you go, "But hang on a minute, you clicked on one of our paid ads." But what paid ad was it? What keyword did you use? Oh, you searched our brand and clicked on a paid ad. So we've paid for you to click on our own brand when we didn't really need to. No one competes with us. Do you see the equation of like, we're wasting money on that? We
love
would have got the
this.
sale anyway.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we discovered is like people, whatever we're learning from Google is not necessarily the actual facts, or part of the story is literally, no, it took this one community member 20 touch points till they actually converted, but it was all part of the system. And we've learned that because that's asking them actually is. And honestly, I am blown away because I never do this. I never even respond to a survey. I don't know what customer who does this. And I'm grateful because we get so much feedback from them.
Yes.
But they will give a whole story as to like, I was watching this show and then, yeah. So we get a lot of information by just asking.
Yeah. I filled one out the other day and it said, how did you find us? I said, I was watching Harry Potter and my wife paused it and said, what have you got so-and-so for Christmas? And I said, nothing. And they were like, well, what are we going to get them? And I looked at the screen and saw a dragon and I was like, obviously a Lego dragon. Like there's an easy one. And there's like, right, Lego dragon. And just bought a dragon from, I think it was Amazon. It's like next day delivery, like, right, wrap that, let's go. So that was sort of sorted. Let's talk about some of the challenges then from a business perspective. So you've given us incredible background to how you started it, what you sell, who you guys are, what you stand for. What have been some of the challenges you guys have faced then with growth? Like we always have dark days in business. I can vouch for that. I've had more than I'd like to admit.
Lots.
Yeah.
So we're talking 11 years. And for honestly, the first, like if I'm being very transparent and truthful, I would say for 7 of these years, I really didn't know what I was doing in so many facets of the business.
I feel like I still don't. I'm 20
well, no,
years in.
and I don't. There's a lot still to learn, but I finally, this past year, it's our first year being profitable. It's the first.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, that's good.
Last year, we were $700,000 in the red. So to turn the company around and finally, there's been a lot of disasters. And that was a calculated risk though. Like even last year, we went heavy and we're like, we're going to pay big influencer and see what happens. We're going to do this licensing collaboration and see what happens. We're going to work with this big agency. We're going to hire a sales team to grow our Sephora business in Canada. and it all freaking failed, or everyone lied to us and didn't do and say what they're going to do. And influencers, big influencers, don't necessarily work for small brands. And I had to learn that. And at least now I have the data to say, no, what works for Cheekbone is maybe not the systems that are aligned in the beauty industry norm. Maybe what works for us is this organic content, is us just being transparent about formulations and product and how it works, and those sorts of things. So just learning, even though those were big failures. And then I focused for the last 2 years on two of the buckets of really important buckets of business that I was never very comfortable with, which is finance and ops. And we now have built, like, when you're
It's the
in,
boring stuff. It's
oh
the
my
boring stuff.
goodness, but when you're a CPG business that
Yeah, you
literally
can't not. It's
has to know, like, I meet founders and my heart aches for them because they don't get it yet, or they don't want to, and then the business will not succeed. And I want to tell
yeah.
them that. And it's so hard that I know exactly how many Aki, which is our best-selling red lipstick, we have to order and sell in the month it's forecasted. And we will, and then be sitting at that perfect level so that we still have enough to give if it go, like, it's just such a big important piece of the business, is understanding the operations portion, as understanding your cash flow on a weekly basis, sometimes when you're in tough points, right, of like what you can and cannot do. But I took the last 2 years to like really teach myself and make sure my team knew exactly what and we're super small team. Like, we're only 6 full-time employees. The rest is all contract sort of, and subcontract work that supports us. But this internal team, like, we are super functional, and like just have hustled to get to where we are, but had to learn the hard things, and had to learn it like from the ground up with not. And originally, and there's so many schools of thought out there, because people are like, well, hire for the things you don't know. I did that, and it didn't work either, right? Like, I
Mm.
was counting on, but here's what
I
I
disagree with
learned.
that statement. I know a lot of people say hire the stuff you don't know or bring in expertise where you don't know. What I've started doing is finding the like individual one person like band sort of thing to say like, right, you're a contractor, you're a freelancer. I don't like, I'd say 10 years ago, I was looking at my accounts going, I'm working really hard. Revenue's good. I couldn't tell you how much profit we've got. So I sat down with a freelance accountant and said, look, I don't need an accountant. Can I pay you for like a day or two of your time? Can you explain what EBITDA means? Can you explain what are the advantages I could take of VAT? What can I and can't I expense? How does the
Hmm.
HMRC system work? Like, HMRC is where we pay our tax. Like,
Yeah.
is it inland revenue in the US? I don't know what Canada have, but so yeah, so I sat down and learned all those things. My philosophy is the opposite of hire people to do things you don't know how to do. My philosophy is start it yourself, get it working well, and then hire someone to expand it. Because the conversation I can have with anyone in my team, and I
Oh,
mean, yeah, we hire a lot of junior people here and train them. So we hire
yeah.
them based on their culture, their personality, their drive. They're not too ambitious, the right level of ambitious for us. We ask questions in interviews of things like, are you aware of your limitations, your failures, when you're kind of in your depth, out of your depth? And if we get anything but an answer that's like, okay, we do trust them, that sounds legitimate. It's like, you're a junior, we're hiring someone without experience. Day one, you're out of your depth, you're beyond your limits, you're going to fail at everything. But that's part of this. So if that's not your culture, don't come here. Like, and we don't want you to come here because it's going to be horrible. We've made that mistake in the past.
I
But I
love
think
that.
that,
I say that as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, this is a horrible job. But
for the wrong
here,
person.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
here's all the things that, and if you love that
Yeah.
world, then please come join us.
One of my team, I have one-to-ones in my team every 2 or 3 months, and I was doing the end of year ones over the last couple of weeks. And one of my team said to me like, "How would you not want to work here?" And I said, "Well, there's people with personalities that they like shouting. They like let's just do stuff at the deadline. They get a real drive and kick out of that. I don't. It's my business, so I'm hiring a team. I only hire a team of people that I like working with." Because otherwise, it's all going to fall apart. Like, if I don't like it, you're all stuffed. Like, and I think I've had to learn to be selfish to then help people by hiring them, training them, giving them a career, and giving them a chance, like give
Yes.
the right person a chance
Yeah.
to go and do stuff.
I feel
But
like
I
we
think,
could talk about
yeah,
this stuff for hours, just because I like, so when you said that, um, I learned I didn't ask these so-called experts that I hired the right questions because I didn't know what to ask them. I was just expecting them to understand, and it turned out to be epic failures in most of the cases, right?
so to let everyone into a little secret, and I know there's agencies that listen to this as well, so please don't steal this too much. the last 3 pitches we've won, we haven't written a slide deck, we've not written a proposal, which is what an agency normally does. You come in and say, "Hey, look how amazing the world," which is probably what you had. Like, "Look how amazing the world's going to be," and you're like, "Great, let's sign off, let's go." Most of our PPC proposals now are just a spreadsheet, and it's just that we don't even talk about the ad copy, and we agree the process and stuff with the client like in the first couple of weeks when we start, because that's all stuff that we can change. The thing that we need to work out is like, all right, how much are you spending, how much are you making, what are the economics? And when you talk about the numbers as well, I want to say thank you as well. Thank you for being so honest about making a 750K loss last year compared to this year. You're now in profit. I think, I think it's an amazing part of the journey. And if anyone's seen that or something similar in the title of this episode, don't be surprised. Like, I've written it down and gone, that's incredible. I think with the economics, like we sit with brands and we ask, you'd be amazed some of the big kind of global corporations we work with, down to like some small but very quickly scaling Shopify stores, and we ask them like, what's your best selling product? And then where do people land on your site to buy that product? It's like, well, we don't know. And it's like, fine, you're going to hire us to look at that. And actually, when we normally try to like optimize a whole site or do marketing for a whole business, we're going to apply the 80-20 rule and go, we're going to spend 80% of our time on 20% of the pie, but it's 20% of the pie that makes, and we come back to where we started, the 80% of your revenue. And I think it's looking at the economics of things like that. It's so important. I've been calling it economics more and more over the last sort of 6 months, and we're certainly doubling down on that next year of our clients, saying, let's pull the layers off the onion for a second and go, where is your revenue actually coming from? What are people actually buying? Why are they buying it? And then let's do more of that. The amount of brands that have said, we got a new range, and then we launched a new brand on our store, and we're like, why? And they're like, because we could get hold of it. It's like, that's your, I mean, you mentioned business plans earlier. I'm done with business plans. Like, just, it's, you talk to your customer and go, like, we talk to our clients and say, what's the biggest thing you need from us this year? And they'll say, as an organization, we're only like 3% profitable and we need to get to 5. And we say, right, we can make like a 6% profitability increase this year, which will massively, we drive 50% of all your revenue on Google Ads. We could massively help you turn that ship pretty quickly. And that's actually an easier brief than what we were probably trying to achieve in the first place, but that's the company goal, and we can overhit that pretty quick. How do you guys approach? Like, I know last year to this year was probably quite easy, but how do you guys approach like KPIs, metrics? What do you measure? Like, what does success? What do you look at in the morning when you get up that makes you happy and not happy in the data that you're looking at on a daily basis?
Yeah, and that has changed dramatically over these last 9 years of selling first. Um, yeah, so I have worked, so even our HR company is contract. And one of the main jobs, we've worked with them for quite a few years, always very happy. And I was like, while we were going through this whole new building ops process, there was a lot of things happening in the background. And it really did change people's job descriptions. And so what we did is now in each job description, we built KPIs based on these 6 people that work for me and have to do a lot of things. Now there's like 5, 6, 10 KPIs surrounding each of them that they're responsible for. And we've embedded that now even into the job description. So I'm completely drawing a blank here, but uh, whether it's the wholesale manager and also acts as my EA, which is Melanie. So if she's the wholesale manager, that means she's responsible for all small independent business that we bring on. So boutiques that would be selling Cheekbone, and we want to bring on at least 5 a month, and that has to add up to a certain amount of revenue each year. And obviously her KPIs are going to surround that, whether it's from how many cold calls she's making based on how many, like following the 80-20 rule. So she's got to make 100 cold calls a week and transfer that into 5 accounts that actually onboard within the month, kind of thing. And then that's the sales funnel process. But then her KPIs on her job description are all based on that. And so we do that for every individual now within the organization, which is
I love that.
like
That's
game
cool.
changing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then I have
absolutely.
a CEO dashboard that they take all of the insights and have to put that information in it every Monday for our team meeting that happens every Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. We've got some clients now. We've used Google Looker Studio and a couple of alternatives where we basically, people are like, oh, sorry, I'm never available on Monday morning. And sometimes we're like, it's been an interesting weekend. Sometimes it's been a hard weekend, a good weekend. And we email clients like by 9 a.m. Monday, like we're emailing clients saying, have you seen, I'm assuming you've seen the stats this weekend. I'm already changing budgets accordingly or pivoting towards this because that range
Love
for
that.
some reason has exploded over the weekend.
Yeah.
And we don't hear from them. And then when we eventually, after a few months of getting to know the client or a couple of years in, we say, what are you doing on a Monday? Like we send you these emails being like, guess what? And there's like, just
Oh,
dead. And then like,
crickets.
first thing Tuesday, oh, sorry, I guess great. Thanks for doing that. Or like, oh, please don't put the budget up. And it's like, yeah, we spent quite a bit. Yes. I mean, we have caps. We have like, we won't go over that without permission. But we started creating these dashboards because they were like, we're just putting all this information into a trading meeting. And it's like, we got half a day back. And then we slightly jokingly, but slightly seriously say to the client, can you spend that half day then like approving content we need from you, or can you get this for us that we need, or can you get this sign off over here so we can start that campaign? Like, trying to utilize that free time we've got back to them. But I mean, a lot of organizations, it used to be like, yeah, Monday was just kind of trading meetings for everybody across all clients, and it was like Monday was like a ghost town at the agency world, and it was like, this is bizarre. Like we have the internet. Are there not graphs? I think your
What's
dashboard sounds
happened?
fantastic to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Let's come into land on this last point then. And you mentioned right at the start, you mentioned it, I've written it down because I love this. You said about if I could go back and say some things to myself when I started, like what would I say? I want to rephrase that as a question very slightly to say, hearing your story is probably going to inspire some people, and there's definitely going to be people listening to this who are on that kind of journey. What advice would you give to these guys who are thinking of starting out, or they've just started out? Like, yeah, what would you say?
Oh, wow. So, like, there's so many things, but I think the
In
most
like 3 minutes.
important, yeah, the one
Yeah.
area which is so ridiculous. How am I in a beauty? So, if you're in food or beauty, it is not like a tech business. You can't just toss out your MVP and expect that iterations can happen. If I tasted something and it tastes like garbage, that is, I'm never going back. The brand, like it's gone, it's done. If you've used a beauty product and it doesn't work, it's done. So we're in a category where my product had to be at its sort of that product market, never mind fit, love phase right off the hop. And that's the biggest mistake I made, is that I went and I entered this industry really unknowledgeable and didn't understand product and how important it was. And so, and my issue was I was actually reading a lot of tech based books that said just throw out what you have. And then this is like a catch.
Yeah.
This is like a catch
Yeah.
22, because I didn't even have a choice though. I had no money. I didn't, like, when I said I started with $500, that it wasn't like I could go and spend uh, 10,000, 100,000 on building the perfect product either. So my story is I had to start the way I did, but if I had a choice, maybe I just know, even if I went to go look for investors, no one was ever going to give me money. I knew I wasn't a celebrity influencer. I didn't come from the beauty industry and have a tenure at like L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, or one of the big, like, I had none of that. I was selling fish and knew nothing about beauty. So who in their right mind would give me money to do that? So maybe my story is the way it is and has to stay that way. But if it doesn't have, if you have money, you get that product perfect, especially in beauty and food, before you put it into the world.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, today's been great. I've written a whole page of notes. I'm going to keep writing notes after we finish the recording. But yeah, I want to say a massive thank you, Jen. And if people want to reach out and hear more about the story, engage with the business, sign up to the newsletter, buy products, what's the website URL? What are the social handles? How can people get in touch?
Yeah, we're cheekbonebeauty.com, and I'm Cheekbone Jen on most of the other platforms, or Jenn Harper on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, yeah, thank you again, Jen. It's been so good to have you. And yeah, sorry for all the technical issues at the start. But
No,
yeah,
I
thank you so much
apologize.
for joining us. And yeah, all good.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, look, if you guys have enjoyed today's episode, as I said at the start, please hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment wherever you're listening to it. And if you wanted to join our newsletter, we're announcing something in January. I don't know if it's going to be the first week of January. I did want it to be the first week of January. We're announcing something massive that we're going to be launching in September next year. We've already got quite a few brands signed up. There is already a bit of a waiting list of just the people I've told. But it's going to be unlimited. Everyone can join in. It's completely free for you brands to attend as well. So stay tuned for that. Go to wwspodcast.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and I'm going to give Mark, our web guy a bit of a kick up the backside, because the new website should be live now. It's just a new design. It's not super exciting, but yeah, it should be live yet, and it's not. So I'm going to give him a quick kick. If I don't hear from any of you guys, have an amazing Christmas. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday as well. We're going to have a little bit of a laugh on the show. And I don't know if there's an outtake reel this year. I genuinely don't know, but I am a bit nervous because no one said anything when I asked. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for being part of the journey this year. And yeah, we hope you guys can join us in 2026 as well. Have a very wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. Black Friday and Cyber Monday are coming in fast. Is your store ready? You need your marketing dialed in before the big rush, and our sponsor Seguno has everything you need in one place. From emails and pop-ups to reviews and more, Seguno's suite of tools is built exclusively for Shopify, so everything works seamlessly in your store. And right now, with code WWS20, you get 20% off your first 3 months. So don't wait until the chaos starts. Get your Black Friday and Cyber Monday marketing ready today at seguno.com/winning with Shopify. That's seguno.com/winning with Shopify.